Guys, what's going on tonight? It is Tuesday night at 8 p.m. on the East Coast. That means it is time for Proper Royals Live. Tonight we go nationwide. I got Summer from the shop out in I'm going to mess up the pronunciation. Vallejo, California. That's the two L's that make a Y sound, you know. Summer from the shop. She's going to be on the show. And I'm going to tell you more about Summer as we go on. But really intriguing, and as I've just found out, just charismatic, warm, inviting personality. Summer spends a lot of her time on education, community outreach, as well as providing the tools and the necessities for people to take care of their animals, as well as breeding killer species outside of, matter of fact, not just outside of ball pythons, no ball pythons at all. So we're going to get into the lizard world tonight, and there's some cool industry ties of how we got mixed up together. So we'll get to all of that. But Summer from the shop is on the show tonight, so stick around. Thank you all for being here. Those of y'all that are in the chat, I don't even have my comments turned on over here. Let me see what's going on. You guys know I'm not great at the shout outs, but I got to give some thanks to Jeremy Bod. There's Evan at Unlikely Morphs. Evan, we're going to get to you tonight, pal. Shannon's in the audience. Taylor from Chakra Scales, and Casey. Good to see you. Brandon, what's happening? Thank you, everybody. We got Gray Family Snakes in the audience tonight. Thanks for coming by the live show tonight. I appreciate it. Marshall, what's up, man? We got some heavy hitters. Justin, speaking of heavy hitters, like Justin, how many followers are you up to on your viral page, man? We gotta get an update on that. You're in the hundreds of thousands, man. It's amazing how you've blown up. Fantastic. DE's Reptiles. I think you're a first timer. I don't recognize you. Thank you for being here. I hope you hang out. Check out the show tonight. Thank you so much. This week in my world, believe it or not, March is finally winding down for me. And when I say finally winding down, March was great. It was extremely busy. I was going a mile a minute, and that was by plan. Some of my professional day job income changes in April and May, where I need to be a little bit more dedicated on that. So in March, I was working the day job. I was doing reptile shows. I was playing gigs. I was traveling all over the state of Florida. It worked out great, man. I was tired. Couple days rest, recuperation, and we still got 3 more days. We're still only 90% of the month done. We got 3 more days of the month, so maybe it'll finish out even on a bigger bang. If you've not seen it, go check out the live stream. Check this out, 24/7 stream of my facility. Oh man, I just clicked the wrong button while I'm trying to talk like a dummy. Here we go. Check it out. If you haven't seen it, this is live right now on YouTube. The link is down below in my Patreon, not in my Patreon, in my LinkTree link. And that's all the 3 rooms of my facilities. There's me talking with my hand waving around on the live stream. Of course, there's a little bit of a lag, but you can see how I clean, how I operate. Tomorrow morning around 8:30, 9 in the morning, I'll do my pairings for the week, like actually pairing males to females. You can see it all, and that's free right now. That is going to go to a Patreon-only subscription model, but for right now, as I'm beta testing and working out the kinks and figuring out how to make it a little bit more exciting, because I can't be on stage 24/7. Like, I'm in here a lot, but I can't be on stage 24/7, right? So anyway, there we go. So go check that out. It's free. If you if you ever want an inside behind the curtains view of what I do and when I do it, you can absolutely check that out. Patreon is live. You go check that out. There's 3 tiers. There's a $7 tier, which is basically you get the live stream, you get to support me, and you'll be at the very front of the line for the animals. The 2 higher tiers get access first, but before anything goes on the mailing list or Morph Market, you would have access to it. $35 tier, a little bit higher, same kind of thing that I just described, except all of your money accumulates to a credit bank, store credit bank. So I eat the Patreon fees. All the money you put in, you get back in store credit with me. So if there's a project that I'm working on and that you're interested in, or you have questions of what I'm working on, let me know. that's sort of the Kickstarter model. You pay for it up front, helps with my cash flow, and then you get in that tier you get second dibs behind the first tier, and the premium tier or the top level tier is one that I work with you on, basically in a consulting role. We talk every other week, and we work on your goals. We work on how you're going to get there. I work as kind of a little bit of a coach and a consultant on what your projects are. And then that tier is capped at 5 people. So all 5 people work together as well. We have a monthly meeting on that. I got to give a shout out to Casey Goff. He is in that top senior tier. Thanks so much, Casey. I saw you in the audience. Thanks for being here, brother. Appreciate the support. I don't know if you caught in there. I do send out an email list. If you don't want to deal with Patreon, the email list gets the access to the animals after the Patreon members, but before everybody else, before I post on Instagram, blah, blah, blah. So just shoot me an email. All of that is in the LinkTree link in the description down below. Next week, I got Chris from Epic Style LLC, hardworking man, and from what I could tell, like a real professional, really giving it what he's got in a lot of different angles, from website to breeding to outreach, working shows, all of that stuff. So come by next week, Epic Style LLC, and that is Chris. A heavy topic. We've all, of course, heard of Brian Barczyk's condition, and I don't know if y'all know, I lost my mother to cancer 2010, so coming up on 13 years ago. So a lot of this is it's brutally hard. Like I honestly can't watch his videos. It's just brutally difficult for me. Robin Redline Shipping has a special edition sweatshirt coming out. This has nothing to do with my sponsorship with Redline. This is just a cool thing. He's got a special edition purple sweatshirt. If you've seen his swag, it's solid swag that he deals in, and this sweatshirt is no exception. I'm going to get clarification. I'm always just playing cynical devil's advocate. All proceeds go to Brian's family. I don't know what that means. Does it mean profit? Does it mean revenue? It doesn't matter. We're going to sell a ton of these sweatshirts, and we're going to take care of Brian's family. And it's a great way to support it. And they're the bright purple. They're not the typical Redline red. And I ordered mine last night. It's on its way. And so I'm really excited to both participate and help support Brian, show my support, and be a part of this as well. I know that Robin and Brian are very, very good friends. So I think that's very cool. And yes, for the record, I paid retail price, full support on that. So I'm happy to do so. I'm looking forward to getting that from Robin. Brian, people throw around the words thoughts and prayers and all that stuff, but legitimately, I'm with you. Give it what you got, man. Me, I have a couple shows. I took the weekend off last weekend, but I got some shows coming up. Musically this weekend, Friday night, I will be in the megatropolis of Folkston, Georgia at Kellerfest. I'm playing that gig with my dad. How cool was that? Me and Dad, we've never actually done a gig together. We've been playing music together for nearly 30 years now, and have never done an actual gig. We've done a couple open mic slots kind of thing just to go do things together. But as far as performing at a gig, at an audience, stage, blah, blah, blah. So that's Friday night in Folkston, Georgia at Kellerfest. And then Saturday night, I'll just be performing either by myself or as a duo with my fiddle player. I'm not sure. I'll be over at Hibernia Pub in Orange Park, 6 p.m. if you're around. And then as far as Reptile shows, April 15th, I'll be in Kissimmee. I've heard mixed reviews, the Kissimmee Repticon. I've heard mixed reviews about that show, but there's some really cool vendors going to be there. Snakes for the Memories for sure. I saw Creation Collective, Marks and Cheryl. They'll be there. I'm not sure if Jesse's vending. Maybe he's vending. Maybe Jeremy, you vending that one? What are you up to on that one? I'm not sure. Anyhow, I will be there. You can come see me, and I will have snakes. And if you want, you can buy some. Speaking of Jesse Music at Musical Pythons, finally, I got around to dropping a new YouTube video. For Pete's sake, it took me long enough, right? I could do a whole episode on the ups and downs and peaks and valleys of inspiration and blah, blah, blah. But I finally got off my keister and posted a new YouTube video. I got 2 more coming up. certainly in the next 2 weeks, if not the next 5 or 6 days, they're ready to go. Shout out to Evan at Unlikely Morphs. Evan is a member on the investor tier that I have. Evan, if you look, I don't know if I should ruin it or not. Like, it's gonna ruin. I gotta tell you, because I can't just leave you hanging. But legitimately, you gotta go follow Evan on Instagram. This crazy son of a gun, because it's a PG show, got Bob Vu's logo tattooed on him, and I think he did the tattoo himself. It's fantastic. Had I known this were up for discussion, you know, dude, you win the internet this week. That is all right, Evan. Be interested to see what comes next. So look, let's get to the show tonight. Summer, I met Summer. Well, I just met her for the first time in the green room, but I was introduced to Summer by Robin Marklin at Redline Shipping, and Robin's been a great colleague, evolving into a mentor. I haven't met him in person, so I'm hoping friend one day. I hear that he likes a good dinner, as do I, and so maybe in Daytona this year. Who knows? We'll catch up though. But Robin and I did Robin has steadfastly not been interested in doing live appearances. He wants them recorded, and it's a brand protection. We all know the drama out there on podcasts and loose cannons and blah, blah, blah. So we did a recorded interview, and that episode's been posted. And just after that, and I know this had to be in early January or late December. I forget which it was. No, I can tell you it was January 19th. We had that recording. Shortly after that, he messages me and he says, "Hey, I just met Summer out at the Pomona show, and she's an intriguing person, and I really would think she would be a great guest." And I said, "Well, all right, let's check it out." So I reached out to Summer and we got chatting. I think we spent a little time checking out each other's content and all of that. And anyhow, like I say, I found her to be very intriguing, a wonderful personality, incredibly warm, charismatic, inviting. But also, I found all the things that I like. She has this humbleness about her. She's a community about her. She has, I was joking with her beforehand, not even joking, commenting. It feels like fingers in a lot of things business-wise. And I was joking tongue in cheek. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but it's something that certainly speaks to my entrepreneurial spirit and something I have to reel in. So all those things together, I said, you know what? I got to get Summer on this show. So for the very, very first time, please welcome to the Proper Royals stage from Vallejo, California. And her content and brand is called The Shop. That's SHA with an umlaut and a P. Please welcome Summer. Summer, how you doing?
Hello. What's up, everybody?
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm excited. I was like sitting backstage blushing.
It's weird. It's weird talking about somebody in the third person that I know good and well is sitting right there listening to what I'm right. And I'm sure it's the same the other way.
Yeah, just as weird being the person listening. Like
right.
Oh man. But yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Very, very cool. So, all right, tell us I will tell you, finding the lowercase a with an umlaut was the hardest thing I ever found because I don't have a German keyboard or Scandinavian or where that might be from. But I'll joke it aside. What's the backstory on that? And tell us a little bit about what you do and your brand and your you. Tell us.
Yeah, for sure. So the story behind it has nothing to do with German or anything. Funny. So I'm from deep South Louisiana. I'm from a little town called Thibodaux. It's like a hour southwest of New Orleans. Yes, there are things further down from there.
Yeah.
Like swampy, swampland. It's a great place to be from in a lot of respects. But my grandfather, growing up, he owned an upholstery shop down there. And like where I'm from, it's like it's it just has a really sordid history when it comes down to oh my God, my dog is going insane. I apologize if you can hear that.
Yeah, I can hear it, but it's are they okay?
Yeah, I'll let him in. 1 second.
Okay.
All right, come on, girl. Come on. There you go. Yeah. She's really forceful. When she wants something, she's like, you're gonna give it to me. And yeah, that's it. So like where I'm from, it has a really sordid history racially with a lot of things. And
Yeah.
My grandfather is Black, my grandmother is Filipino, and he had an upholstery shop in a town at a time when it was very difficult for a Black man to do that.
Sure.
And he was well respected. Like, people called him Mr. Winston at a time when white folks did not
Right.
refer to like Black folks or brown folks in that way. And so the history behind it, like it was called Winston's Upholstery, but as a family we called it the shop. And so with like our southern-ish accent, you know, so adding the umlaute over the A kind of makes the word sound in the way that we said it growing up.
Yeah, I was working it out. I was like, Shap. I was like,
Shap. Yeah, it's like the
like
Shap.
Is this her accent? I was like, did she phonetically work the accent? And I was like, great.
Yeah, so that's what I was doing. I named it the Shap because it was just kind of just an homage to my grandfather, just a hardworking man who supported a family of like 10, 11 with my grandmother with his upholstery business, you know. And and just growing up, I spent a lot of time like on the floor of that upholstery shop with my cousins with little button makers.
Okay.
So like, oh, we're going to work with Papa. And we were just sitting there like making buttons for him. So yeah, that's the story with the name.
You nailed it about like I actually have a degree in history. So I like I could just like pause the whole reptile part of the show and like geek out over the history of that area. Not because I know it, because I would want to learn it, but I find that the places that have the richest cultural history, which Louisiana is high in the running in the United States, if not in the whole new world of cultural richness, the counterbalance is sort of tales of often treachery, particularly from, you know, the 1600s to well, probably more recent than we'd want to admit, to be honest with you. So, but, you know,
like up to the last, like, I mean, up till now, but like last like 60 years or so. Yeah.
Right. And, you know, great art and great culture often comes from great struggle. And I both hate that, but I also adore that and trying to understand it. I don't adore the struggle, but I adore the life experience of somebody who struggled is typically far deeper than somebody who's had it easy. And I don't mean that to a person, but I mean it to sometimes to a person. Anyway, I love Louisiana. I was in, I drove through and landed on the Sunday of Mardi Gras last February, not a year ago, 14 months ago.
That's a hectic day to arrive, man.
I have, you know, talking about community, one of the guys that came up under me, he was one of my restaurant managers when I was running a very big property. And he rose and eventually took a promotion, and he went to New Orleans, he and his partner, and they're married. His husband works in the film industry, the makeup film industry there in New Orleans, and he's working in high-end restaurants. I'm like, these are the best two dudes I could possibly go see Mardi Gras with, right? Like, anyway, we did that, and it was great. I actually drove all the way back to Jacksonville the next day, but it was great. I can't wait to get back. I love, I've been there twice in my life now, so I intend to go more often. But
it's a great place.
So tell us about so we got the name of the shop. Tell us about the shop. What do you do, and what's kind of the mission and the goals?
Oh yeah. So at the core of what I hear an echo. Do you hear an echo?
I do not.
Okay. I'll just talk
clean on my side.
Okay, it stopped. So at the core of what we do, like I base a lot of my decisions as a business, the products that we create, the conversations that we have with people around the idea of why-based husbandry. Like the idea that it's more important to know why something needs to happen than to know how to do the thing. And it comes down to like, if you know why something could be important, then you can like troubleshoot easier. You can figure out like, okay, like my reptile needs this level of UVB for this reason, but I'm out of say like 14% UVB bulbs. How can I like make sure they're getting what they need until I can get them what they need, you know, like things like that. And a lot of the products that we make revolve around adding in like multifunctional. So like we have our primal feeders, which are a line of feeding bowls that are meant to add enrichment into feeding time. So they're designed in a way where insects, like here's one right here. Oops. Okay, Sophie. I'm sorry, Mama. There you go. So this is one right here. So this is a terrestrial bowl, so meant to sit on the floor, and it's designed in a way that you put your feeder insects in here, and they climb the background. And when your reptile sees it, it taps into their hunting instinct, and they go for it. And so we have stuff like that. We have so we have a couple of different versions. So the terrestrial feeder, our Terra feeder, was originally designed for bearded dragons, and that's where I started. I was like tired of seeing my bearded dragon. Come here, Sophie. I was tired of seeing my bearded dragon with like their faces just in a bowl.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make it more exciting for them. So that's where that started. And then I made one for chameleons as well, to help them exercise that muscle for shooting, like shooting their tongue for their insects. You know?
Yeah.
And then it just kept evolving. So it's like a whole line of products like that. So the things that we make are meant to just be multi-purposed to like add to the quality of your husbandry, but in a way that is easy, and it doesn't like, you don't have to do an extra step, you know? So,
yeah. I want to get into the product part of what you do, but I want to do that in just a little bit, because that was one of my questions of like, anyhow, I had questions and I have more. So this is good here. I also want to go back. That why-based husbandry is a great way to put it, because that instills a problem-solving mindset versus a binary, I have to do it this way. I could tell somebody all that I want about humidity and as it relates to husbandry here in North Florida, but Wisconsin in the wintertime is going to be a whole different situation. So that's a great way to put it. And it's a great, one of the topics I have is how we go about educating our customers. I use a hypothetical situation, but that's occurred many, many times. Somebody buys a hatchling and wonders why, when they put it in a 40-gallon Exoterra, it doesn't eat and it's stressed out. And I'm like, this is not I told you, it's not the place for it. It might be one day. It's not right now. You're not going to be there right now. So I like that idea. I'd love to explore that a little bit more. So you sell goods. So you sell those dry goods. What else? What else is part of your business model?
So I carry products from like some of the big names, so like Exoterra and as well as Arcadia and stuff like that. And the whole goal is like, I work with animals as well, but I'm never going to bring animals to a reptile show unless I brokered the deal ahead of time. And we were able to I was able to vet the customer and talk to them ahead of time. So like we do reptile shows, our goal is kind of like, everyone else has the animals and we have the things you need to take care of those animals, right? So we are positioning ourselves as you get the goods that you need, but you also get the education that you need so that you can understand it's not just I need a basking light. Why do I need a basking light? It's not just that I need a heating pad. Why do I need a heating pad? What are the other things I need to take into consideration with this heating pad? What's the whole picture of that situation? You know, I'm big into bioactive enclosures. All of my enclosures are set up bioactively, but it's not just you throw some dirt in an enclosure and call it a day. It's a whole ecosystem, you know.
Right? Yeah. You got producers breaking down recyclers,
Exactly.
and then
So,
back.
yeah, all of that stuff. So the goods are there, but the big most important component of like our overall business model is the education. And it's like we educate folks to what they need, and then the goods fit in to their individual grooves within that, you know.
And so then what it sounds like you do sell animals. You're alluding that or you I'm assuming you do. Obviously I've done a little bit of homework too, but what's the scope of that, or where does that fit into it all?
Yeah. So my goal with my animals is to always be like a small batch breeder. Like I never want to be like, I don't want to have like 300 reptiles. Like I don't want to have like 100 breeding pairs of one thing, like anything like that. You know, I always want to keep it like small batch in the way that I do these things. And for me, I just kind of focus on what I'm interested in and what I love. And my ADHD brain loves a lot of things. for lack of a better way to say it, you know.
I get it. I stick with ball pythons because of all the different, like, I'm just like, I want it all. Okay, it's one box though. I can make it work. Hey, I want to interrupt you for a second. I apologize. Everybody in the audience, all of Summer's contact information is right down in the description. Her LinkTree is there. She has a great LinkTree set up, which makes it way easier to give you an honest promo rather than like, man, I can't give you 9 lines on my description down below, but I give you a good solid one on a LinkTree. So
thank you.
check out Summer's LinkTree. She's got a YouTube, Instagram, her own shop website, and then a whole lot of insight into what she does there too. So I want to make sure I didn't forget that. Sorry. Speaking of lack of focus, I would be prone to forget that.
Yeah. So yeah, like in terms of my animals, Uromastics are my top favorite. And so I have a few different species of those guys. So like Ornatas, Yemenensis are my top favorite of the Uromastic species.
All right. You're speaking the language out of
no,
well, I will say, so I'm familiar with Uromastics. I don't know much about them, and I certainly don't know the whether it's a morph or a geographical area or a location-based one. But I will say that one on your website, that blue and green bad boy, that is the best example I've ever seen. Now, it could be because I haven't seen many, but that thing is eye-catching. And I don't say that thing as in like that way.
I know. We get it.
That is primo right there.
Yeah, that's my boy Icarus. He is he blows my mind. He's a beautiful boy. He really is. Yeah.
How old is that animal? How will he keep that color, or is he fairly young?
So he's an Ornata, and so that's what male Ornatas look like. So he will keep his colors, and he is 5 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's great. I mean, he's pretty vivid. I mean, he's like the colors on my background if you threw the yellow in of the Cold-Blooded Cafe logo there. All right, so Uromastics.
Yeah, and then I just got in a breeding group of jeweled lacertids to grow out. So I'm really excited about them. There's two. There's like the normal jeweled lacertids, and they're like green and blue. The males are. The females are a little less colorful. And then there's
I got to ask you to dumb it way down. Is that it's a lizard? I'm taking it.
Everything I'm gonna say. They're all lizards. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So these guys are a new species to me. So I'm really excited. I wanted to tag you, and we're like, maybe not a tegu yet. They're pretty big.
They're a handful.
So I did some research, and I came across the jeweled lacertids, and they're like smart like tegus. They're really active and just absolutely beautiful. So I got in a group of melanated, like the melanated ones are completely black. They're beautiful. And then I have my bearded dragons, of course. And I have panther chameleons. I started with panther chameleons, and it was really interesting because it made me see that the reptile community has, like, each little subgroup has way different ways of doing things. So like when I came in through chameleons, like the first chameleon I purchased came from Chameleon's Paradise, this guy named Bruce out in the Bay Area, and he's like an OG chameleon breeder. He's known for making one specific locale, the nosy Phaley or nosy Folly. I'm not quite sure how folks always say it, but making that specific locale like widely available in the US. He's a pretty dope dude.
That's a Madagascar location?
Yeah, it's a Madagascar locale. Yeah. So I started with that. And when I came in, it was like I contacted him. We did a phone call. He wanted to know about my setup. He was asking me questions. Like it was like a proper vetting, you know?
Right.
And I was like, whoa, this is what it's like to get a reptile. Cool.
Yeah.
And like for the most part, when I kept getting more chameleons, and for the most part, I was like, it was a very similar process. And then I got my first bearded dragon, and I paid for it on a website, and they sent it to me, not a question asked. Like,
oh yeah.
So and every reptile I've gotten since then has been like that. I haven't gotten like any more chameleons. I just have my crew, and every other reptile since then has just been like, okay, you want it, here you go.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, it's weird. I go back and forth on that. I sold one this week, and the guy had only had 2 logins to Morph Market, and I was like, look, man, I don't want to be rude, but could you send me a picture of your setup? Like, I want to know that even you're an actual human being. And then, like, if you've only ever logged in twice, can we at least talk about this?
Yeah, that's weird.
Well, you know what though? It was great. I fully intended to never hear from this person, because they also were like, it was not an expensive snake, and they were like, well, will you do Zelle? And I'm like, that's a weird. We're talking a couple $100 here. You're gonna wire it on Zelle? I was like, something doesn't feel right here, you know. And sure enough, he texted back. He had the heat pad with a good thermostat. He was like, I went for a tub so I could help with the humidity. Here's the cocoa that I'm using. And I'm like, oh my gosh, wow, okay, nice job, dude. I was like, I'm really sorry. Now let's revisit the Zelle thing. I'm still not going to use that, but can you do this? You know? And
yeah, I'm like, I log into Morph Market like 5 times in a day.
I know. That's why I was like, man, this stinks to hot. You know, I was like, I'll check him out, but no, it ended up being cool. And he just by his own luck, the one that he wanted is just a great first pet. Temperament to it. It eats really well, really well established. Matter of fact, it's the one. It's I use that snake on my banner. Like, that's the snake on my banner for people to see. So it'll be cool to send him to a good family that guy's clearly, like, I was really, and he was like, oh, and then that's what he goes, oh yeah, and then here's this, and he sent me a picture of his temp gun. I was like, okay, you're good, dude. You passed the test, you're in, you know.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It was definitely a contrast in terms of like the vetting process, for sure. It was interesting.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I've started a debate on Zelle in the comments. No, I'm familiar with Zelle, but I usually think of it in terms of like wire transfer quantities, not first time buyer, because there are some scams with Zelle if you know what you're doing with it. And I don't want to make the show about Zelle, but anyway, people are like, what's wrong with Zelle? Nothing's wrong with Zelle if you're comfortable with Zelle, if you're a new user to it. But that's not usually what like
the pet grade first time buyer throws at me. That's all I'm saying. Like, all things considered, it was an odd request. That's all. I will gladly take Zelle if somebody wants to pay me with it. I just had to ask the question. That's all.
Oh man.
So, all right, note to self, I'm going to do an episode on Zelle. This is where the action is. Like,
yeah, you got the conversation moving.
They got Zelle opinions, man. So, look, well, you know, you alluded to it, and I don't want to dive too deep into it because I know that everybody already. I would hope everybody's already had this internal conversation and can look themselves in the mirror and can go to sleep at night and all that. But there are ethics questions about selling reptiles, selling any animals. There's ethics questions about shows, which you did an episode on.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we all weighed in to sort of our own comfortable level of depth on that. Whatever answer people come to, I hope they come to an answer. It's the people that don't think about that and don't come to any answer. That's in my opinion, that's what I worry the most about. Mm-hmm. But you know, like I say, I don't, it's not that I mind a little contentious topic. That's cool. And I'm not afraid of that, but I also don't want to revisit 3 hours of what's endlessly debated already and that people already have thoughts on. But give me a rundown of like your biggest concerns at shows. Is it the way the animals are handled? Is it the potential to sell to impulsive, uneducated buyers? Is it people themselves selling? I don't know. Where's your sort of hot point?
Well, so before I started doing shows, I was going to, you know, like all of us, going to a lot of reptile shows, you know, and one of the things that I noticed pretty early on was like there's some vendors that they set their animals up in such a lovely way, and like they're good at helping the buyer understand like this is what you're getting into, you know.
Yeah.
And then there's some folks that have like 30 baby chameleons crammed in like a 24 tall, you know. It's like, yeah, so I did go back and forth in my mind a lot around like how would I want to handle this, and if I am going to work with animals, like before I made the definite choice to do that, like how, like what would help me go to bed at night, you know.
Right.
Because I truly love these animals a great deal, you know, and like I name all of them, and I have like almost 50 lizards around this house with names. So it's, so for me, one of the things that like when I had an honest conversation with myself, like what's important when it comes down to working with animals for me, the very first thing was the welfare of the animals. That was the most important thing. And like, I'm willing to lose a sale. I'm willing to have to hold on to the animal, like all of those things. If it means that I know that that animal is going somewhere where it's going to live a long time, or it won't necessarily end up like handed off and like increasing the problem with shelters and animal rescues, right? So I'm like, in order for me to do that, like I need to vet my customers, and I can't do that with reptile shows, right? Like folks can walk up to the table and I can have a conversation with them, but unless they come to the show with like the types of questions I ask in my vetting process, I want to see like pictures of your enclosure. And if they don't have their enclosure set up, that's fine. I can help them. I'm like, I'll help you set up your enclosure. I'll give you the information you need to get that done well, you know? And like, I want to know, like, have you researched any local reptile vets in your area? What are you going to feed this reptile? Do you know about supplementation? Like I want to make sure that they have those basics down, and not in a way like often since we've been doing reptile shows, we just started doing them this year. Folks will buy like multiple times. Folks will buy a bearded dragon or something and come to our table and say, okay, now what? And I'm like, now what?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little backwards there. Yeah.
And we approach it gently with them, you know, because it's like you have the animal now. So now what we want to do is help like cut any damage off for this, or any danger for this animal off at the pass, you know, but they'll come and I'll tell them like, hey, you just spent $100 on this animal, and I'm about to show you $250 worth of stuff that you need to get. And also that glass aquarium, that like 20-gallon glass aquarium you're holding is not big enough.
Yeah.
You know, and
Right.
some folks take it well. But I've had other folks be like, I'll get this heat bulb and I'll get this UV bulb, but I'm not going to get any of these powders.
I'll get this later. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and so I want to know, when it comes to like the animals that I'm responsible for bringing into the world, because we are bringing life into the world that
Right.
would not have been here if we didn't, you know. I want to make sure for those guys that the folks that get them for me are more than willing. They understand the full responsibility. And if someone tells them you need this bulb, that bulb, this supplement powder, and this size enclosure, they're just going to be like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
So
how much of the, going back to your first comment about the why, how much do you focus on the why and why they need it at that point versus A, B, C, D, and F, here's what you have to have kind of thing?
100%. So the way I focus 100% on the why, because with folks like as humans often, and I do this with my students as well. So my daytime that actually pays my bills job, I'm a professor. And so a lot of times with my students, if we're learning about graphic design theory, I'm like, let's talk about the why of this. And because it's like, if we understand why we should do something, it's a lot more likely that we're going to do it. And if you just like tell someone, 1 second, let me get rid of this talk.
Okay.
Come on, mama. Jeez, you were being so here, go
Sorry, guys, I'm catching up on the comments here. It's great to see y'all here. If you're just joining, we got Summer from the shop in Vallejo, California. I gotta learn how to say that properly. Vallejo. And she focuses on lizards, bearded dragons, panther chameleons, and uromastics. What's up, Jaffe? Thanks for joining tonight. Will and Audra, I saw just signed in as well.
I'm back. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was killing some time. You know, when all else fails, you just talk to the audience.
I went and delivered her to my partner. I'm like, can you take her, please? She's making my life impossible right now.
You said it really quickly. Did you say you were a professor by day?
I am. That's my day job. So I'm a full-time professor of graphic design. It's a lot of fun. I love it.
Great. No, all right. So I'll take that as permission to get really nerdy for a minute.
Yeah.
You might have already read it, but right along the lines of what you're talking about, there's a book called Drive by a guy named Daniel Pink. And he talks about, and he's got a TED talk on it. I first heard him on a NPR interview, but it really changed my outlook because I manage really big teams of people. And he talks about motivation and belief in a vision versus a carrot and a stick. There are times a carrot and a stick works.
Yeah.
But more times than not, and more so, and rightly so, as labor has more of a say in what they're doing and more say and a stake in what they're doing. It's so much more about motivating people and giving, and it's called Drive. So Daniel Pink is the author. He's got a few different books, but Drive by Daniel Pink is right up the alley of what you're talking about right now.
Well, yeah, that's it. That's like what my thought process of why-based husbandry, like that's what it's all about. It's about creating the right motivations, or like creating room for those motivations to grow, you know. And like I was saying with my students, it's like if I can help them understand why design theory is important, then I'm not going to have to worry so much about them being willing to learn design theory. And with why, like with the why within the reptile space and reptile education, if I can help folks understand the why behind something, then it makes it a lot more likely that they're going to like develop a consistent practice around that thing, right? Like I can tell someone, hey, you need to give your bearded dragon 14% UVB, and then let that be that. But if they don't know that, like, oh, a bearded dragon needs 14% as opposed to 6% for these reasons, you know? So
Right.
when it comes to approaching that topic, and I'm like talking to someone who just picked up a bearded dragon at the show and they weren't given a care sheet, instead of saying like, you need this percentage bulb because it's stronger, I say, so bearded dragons are from Australia and the sun is super strong there, and so it's like, so they need stronger sun rays, and they're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah, instead of it's like remembering dates in history versus the cultural effects of what was going on at that time.
Yeah, exactly, right, exactly. So it's like they're from this area that gets a lot of strong sun, so they need strong rays in their enclosure, you know? So it's like little stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, Jason, kind of. Jason's piecing it all together. Yeah. She's from Louisiana and now is in an area very near Napa, which is I actually got to talk about that too.
15 minutes away from Napa.
Yeah, I've actually spent time in Vallejo because of my time in Napa. But there, and I'm sorry too, speaking of nerdy book, I think the book was called Creative Design. It was by two brothers from the Stanford School of Design. And
I love David Kelly, and it's David Kelly and his brother. I forget his brother's name, but yeah, I love the way his brain works. He's an incredible problem solver.
It's like, and I mean this from a technical standpoint, it's like reading that book is understanding how a magician works.
Yeah.
Don't worry about if it's doable. Don't worry about how you're going to do it.
Exactly.
Let's talk about what the vision is.
Yep.
And then we could build the people around it. We could build a mechanism. All it's going to take is money and people. Now we might need $1 billion of both, but we're going to figure out how to make this happen. And I get excited about this because I really hate management books, by the way. I hate being told to read like Who Moved My Cheese or whatever that crap is. I don't know. But man, is it called Creative Design? Is that the name of the book?
I'm really bad with names.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's the name of the book, but I know who you're referring to, and I know the book you're referring to. He's one of like my, I don't know you in real life, but your words you're like a mentor to me type of thing, you know? So
I'm a food and beverage guy, and I was handed this book. I was like, I don't need a design book because it's not even necessarily creative design. It's any design. Yeah. And it really, really opened my eyes that if you have a vision, here's sort of the ways that you can A, communicate it, B, build a team around going to get it, and then going to get it. Mm-hmm. And what I loved in his book is all the pictures and drawings in it look like a 4-year-old drew them. I'm like, I could draw this. And that was one of his points was just start communicating. Don't worry about it being perfect. Don't worry anything. Mm-hmm. And Summer, I tell you, there is at my last property that I left 2 years ago, hanging up in the chef's office, there is a torn piece of cardboard with my scribble on it. And that ended up being what the chef and I redesigned the kitchen on. That was the start of the redesign for the kitchen. We walked into the GM's office. We said, we need $60,000 to put in a pizza oven. And if you do that, we'll make you $1 million. And he said, what are you talking about? And we shoved the cardboard in front of him. And he was like, what is this? I was like, I had to tell you about it while it was hot. I couldn't overthink it. Just tell me to keep working on it. And he was like, work on all of this. Get this out of here. I was like, fantastic. He said, work on it. Here we go. And we got that check. We got the 60 grand.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's awesome.
I get fired up over those things. It's really, really cool. I love it.
Well, that's amazing because like it's one thing to have a good idea and it's another thing to have an idea and communicate it to someone else in a way that they give you money. So they're willing to spend money on it, you know?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that cardboard that got us the money. And another lucky streak of my career, that general manager actually came from the world of Toyota manufacturing. And he said, any proposal in the Toyota company has to fit on one sheet of paper and it has to follow a model called, I think it's called an A6, but there's 6 points.
Yeah.
6 topics, 6 answers, approved or disapproved. That was it. He goes, Adam, get all this down on an A6 format and turn it in. And I'll work on it with you because I agree we need it, and then we'll take it to the board and we'll get the check written.
Yeah,
and,
that's awesome.
And that's where it started and came to fruition. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Anyway, you never know where our roads lead on these conversations here, right?
Yeah. All of that stuff really aligns, you know. It's like with a lot of the stuff that I say David Kelly, but it may be Daniel, but I think it's definitely David, but I'm not 100% sure.
I would bet money on David as well. As soon as you said it, I could see in his scratch, because the cover of the book is in the same scratch handwriting on it.
It's I say David, and every single time I say his name, like inside my head, Daniel happens, and I was like, was it Daniel? I don't know. But what I like so much about the way that he approaches things is that he dispels the myth that creativity is for the artist.
That's right.
He dispels that myth. And a lot of times with like my students, especially when they're coming into like an intro, their very first design class, like it's helpful to help them. It's helpful to break the ice and break the fear, you know? And like, I know that's like, what does that have to do with reptiles? But a lot of my thinking around reptiles comes from that background. So it's like the idea with like the why-based husbandry, my thought process behind it is the same way that those whys help like open the door to my students to be able to like tap into their own creative forces and like make things less scary. Like I feel like it can do the same for like new reptile keepers and like reptile keepers that are trying to like transform the way that they do things, you know? And it's like breaking down that barrier of fear of like, oh my God, like, oh, I can't approach this. Like they need this because it'll like do this. And I understand that because like I have this like bit of background information about them, you know, like it makes it more approachable, I think is the best way to say it. Creative confidence. So. Yes, that's it. Creative confidence is the name of the book.
That's the one.
Yeah. That's it.
Not creative design, creative confidence. That's exactly it. Johnny is listening and on the spot. That is
Johnny. Yeah, that's it for sure.
It's precisely it. And yeah, you're exactly right. He does dispel that. It's not about the artistry of creativity. It's about bringing to life and a systematic way to do it. You know, when we think of artists, we think of this divine inspiration and poof, here's something.
Exactly.
And people that are blessed in that way, fantastic. But the truth is most of us aren't. Most of us, I'll use the song analogy. We need to know the chords. We need to know the notes. We need to know the story. Then we need to figure out how to put it all together. Exactly. And design can be that same way. And I think it even overlaps into business. So sort of a theoretical design of, okay, what part of, and even multiple businesses. So what part of my life is restaurant consulting going to be? What part is ball pythons and what part is music going to be? And then of the ball pythons, you know, will this 24-hour live stream thing work? I don't know, but it's a cool design thing.
Dude, I love it. I think it's such a cool idea that you're doing that. Like it's like it appeals to like nosy geeks like me.
Yeah, like,
want to see
in there. Yeah,
like I am so curious about other people's like facilities. I want to see how you do things. Like, so I love it. I think it's one of the things that I think just in general that the reptile community could use more of is like transparency. So I love that because it's like, it's how much more transparent can you get than 24-hour live?
Yeah, I'm like,
your facility,
man. Like,
it's true.
Now I don't have the microphones on because I do conduct my other business in here. If I'm talking with my son or whatever, but I'm trying to think.
To be too much in your business. Just
exactly. Yeah. Well, I stand by what I do. Check me out.
What more do you want? I'm letting you see it.
Right.
Yeah.
But I try and now think of creative design ways to improve on that. So the next evolution is going to be figuring out wireless and or Bluetooth cameras that I could put in the egg box so we could have a 24/7 stream on, you know, starting on the 53rd day.
Dude, that would be so popular. So like TikTok is my main like social media feed, and people like to watch the strangest things for long amounts of time.
Well, and like I'm trying to figure out if I dare put one of the wired cameras in because one of my females is going to lay in 2 weeks. Like,
oh yeah,
that'd be cool. Let's live stream that. You know, and,
I would want to see that. That's
like, I've got to evolve and I think actually in that book he talks about iterating too. You start and then you iterate and you know, improve. Well, the cameras that I bought, they don't do squat in the dark.
Yeah.
And I thought that they're like, I have a Ring camera in my security system. That thing in the dark is premium. I need that technology on my 24/7. So I'm learning and growing, but it's that all came from that same mindset taught in that book. So,
well, like iterative design in general is just a part of my life, because it's like a part of my professional life and it's a part of my business with the shop, because like the feeders that I was selling at my last reptile show are going to be different from the feeders that I'm selling at my next reptile show in a couple of weeks. Because every show I take in advice, I take in feedback from folks, and then I'm always like constantly testing them in all of my own setups. And then I'm like, you know what? This isn't quite working. Like like there may be folks who disagree with this practice, but all of my reptiles that are indoors are on an automatic misting system. They're all arid except for my chameleons upstairs, but I miss my arid reptiles. And it's because they're like Uromastyx, for instance, they're from like the Middle East and Northern Africa and like Northern African countries. But it's not 0% humidity, and some of them are coastal. And some of my original feeders for those spaces didn't have any drainage holes, for example, right? So they work great, but they don't have drainage holes. And I find when I missed my reptiles, and I have to go in, I have to take the feeders, I have to dump them, and because it'll get water in them, you know? So it's like iterative.
When you say feeders, do you mean the insects, or do you mean like
the bowls?
The physical piece of equipment.
The feeder bowls, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So like my chameleon feeders, for example, they all have drainage holes designed in.
Yeah.
But like the other ones don't, you know. So it's like an iterative process. I do something, it works but fails in these ways. I correct and then I try again. But reptile husbandry is the same way, right? Yeah. It's an iterative process, and like we should always be learning and evolving in terms of like how best to take care of our reptiles. Like when I first got my bearded dragons, and like I was told they need super low humidity, like 30-40%. And then I took one of my dragons to the vet. I had got her in, and she came in, she was an adult. She had a respiratory infection that I knew about, but like I cleared out the respiratory infection, but then she was like, I kid you not, like just like brumating for a whole year.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm like, this is not normal. So I brought her to the vet. They ran blood tests on her. They did all these things, and like everything was fine. Like her scans were fine. Her blood tests were fine. And I'm just like, this dragon's just brumating for a year. Like, what is happening? Like, this doesn't make sense. But one of the things, and this is disconnected because changing her humidity did not make her wake up. But I had to fill out the little form, and it's like, oh, humidity levels. And I was like, oh, like 30 to 50, like 30 to 40%. And my vet was like, no, they need a base humidity of at least 60%. And I was like, bearded dragons? And she's like, yeah. I was like, what do you mean? And so I was kind of like completely taken aback by what she said. So I came home and I was like, you know what? I'm going to research where they're from. And I'm going to like look at weather data. I'll look at historical weather data. I'll look at their humidity levels over time. And when I did that research, I was like, oh crap. Yeah. Like wow. The humidity where they're from does like get much higher than what we're providing in their enclosures. Like this is, so then I was like, okay, I've learned something new. I've like been doing this other thing for a while. The next iteration is I'm going to add misting to all my arid enclosures and like maintain higher humidity levels. And they've all been on misting for a year, and I've had no issues with respiratory infections with anything, you know? So
that mindset is what I tell people about YouTube. They're like, well, I need the lighting. I need a better camera. I need this. I'm like, no, you need to start.
Yeah.
You got to start. You're going to learn. You think you know what you need. You're going to learn all kinds of stuff, and you're going to find what you really need is comfort on the camera, engaging the camera, creative ideas, topic ideas, you know, and
it's true.
So because I mean, some things you can't just start driving a semi truck and then you know you got to learn. You have to be taught that.
But learning all starts somewhere, you know?
Yeah, you do have to start somewhere. But yeah, with YouTube, there's no penalty for being awful. Just crash the brand and start a new one with everything you learned, you know? So like,
your only penalty is like maybe a bad comment or people won't watch. And that's it, you know?
Yeah, they can screen record you. Yeah, I mean, you could be an idiot, but that's because you're an idiot, not because of YouTube skills or not. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. It's like all of these things, like for me, just really come together. The idea, like my brain is naturally problem solving based, and like coming into keeping reptiles and like really wanting to just give them the best life that I possibly can. Like find out what that minimum is and then go like 10 levels above that minimum and make sure that I'm really doing, because like they didn't ask to come and live in my house, you know, like, so it's like doing the best that I can to like give them a good life. And then that evolved to outdoor keeping. And so like the Lacertids that I have, like they're in some pretty like, I mean, I'm biased, but some bomb ass enclosures that I outside. Like I'm so stoked about them. And because like the weather here in Vallejo is like pretty similar to, and like in the Bay Area in general, is pretty similar to the weather like where they're from, like in Spain, Gibraltar, like that
cool.
area,
Okay.
you know? So
on your I'm immensely intrigued on the dry goods that like to take the feeder. Can you hold that up for a minute? One of the ones that you had shown?
Yeah, this guy.
So at first I assumed, you know, you partner with a manufacturer, a wholesaler, you pay X amount, you mark it up X percentage, they make money, you make money because you buy in volume and then you do the work. And the good old retail capitalism machine works. But I'm understanding now you must be producing, like you must be manufacturing these. You're producing these.
I am. So all of these feeders are of my own design. And like I 3D print them right now. Like I have the 3D printers running right now. Knocking some out.
This is the content I was looking to get to. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And what I love about it's a love-hate relationship, me and these 3D printers, but what I love about it is it does allow me to respond quickly. I can like get advice about what is going to work better, or a customer can buy something and send me a message and be like, oh, hey, like this is working great for me, but I wish X, Y, and Z, you know? And then I'm like, okay, awesome. Like after Pomona. So Pomona was the first big show where I introduced these products to the world, and we did great. Like the best seller at our booth was the products that we produce. And like after that show, folks were like, with my chameleon feeders, I only had it where you could like hang it from branches in your enclosures, but folks were like, oh, what if there were magnets, or what if there's a suction cup? And I was like, got it. I went home that next week, opened up my design, and I added like connectors for magnets, and then I added a place to add in a suction cup. So it's like I can respond quickly in that way. And my goal is to get them manufactured. Like I have, like right now, everything that I've made is patent pending. I'm trying to like finish off the final parts of that process. I just get really nervous about like sending the designs off into the world, and then like
that's a lot of trust.
I don't know what I think is going to happen, but I'm just waiting for that to be like done. And then awesome folks like my friend Robin is like, he just gives me great advice and connects me with awesome people so that I can just grow in these ways that I need to. So my goal is to have them manufactured by someone else. It's not, unless I get like, I don't know, 15 more 3D printers, it's not sustainable. It's like not a sustainable way to produce the products. And then I have to do like post processing on everything. And it's hard, like coming up in the summer, like we're doing the Sacramento show in a couple of weeks. We're doing Anaheim. We're doing another Sacramento show. We have a lot of shows coming up. And like, I think it's like between June and July, we're going to have like maybe 4 shows in a row or something like that. So it's it's really hard to produce enough product to satisfy the demand for that many shows in a row, you know? So
right.
Yeah, so it's a love-hate relationship with producing them myself. And my goal is to have them produced by someone else, hopefully pretty soon, but not quite yet.
Gotcha. I was, and we'll take a break in just a second. What you described, now both you were selling something, but also taking the feedback. I have always held Morph Market and John. I had never met John, but I held him in high esteem because Morph Market just changed our industry so much. But the first time I met John was at the Daytona show, and he buys a table just so people could tell him what they want.
That's awesome.
And like
genius. Yeah.
It's well, first you gotta have thick skin for it. Like coming from a restaurant world, the last thing I want is an open platform for people to complain. Oh my God. Like that I don't put many chemicals in my body, but that would be something where I'd be like, I'm going to need a little something for this here. And it was great. And it was so heartfelt because I was there. My son at the time was 9. And Charlie pipes up and I'm like, Charlie, he's a busy man. Like, let me just talk for him. And he was like, no. He's going to, in 7 years, he's going to want to buy something off of the site. And I was like, good for you for straightening me out. That's fantastic. Like that was the skill that I needed to hear of like, what do people like about it? What's working, what's not? How can we iterate? How can we make it better? Let's take just a second. I got to say thanks to Redline Shipping. I believe Robin is in the audience tonight, which is awesome, which I really, really appreciate. Robin is Robin Markland from Redline Shipping. If you're not familiar with Redline Shipping, please check them out. I obviously am in a business arrangement with them, but I was a customer beforehand. And what always struck me was the customer interface, the ease of use. And look, all those things are good, but the price has got to be good too, right? And the prices are killer. So please go check out Redline Shipping. Robin takes good care of me here at Proper Royals. And he wants to take care of you as well. Proper 5 at checkout will get you an extra $5 off of your next shipping label. And it'll let Robin know that I sent you. So it works really well. So please go check out Redline Shipping. And again, huge thanks to Robin Markland. Also, my friends at Cold Blooded Cafe. I prefer to feed frozen thawed. I'm not here to lecture you on how to feed your animals, but I prefer frozen thawed. And if you do, or if you want to try it out, give Cold Blooded Cafe a shot. It's a really weird analogy, but I spent 27 years in restaurant operations. And their facility production methods and safety and freshness standards really, really translate into the goods that come out of their bags when you open them up. As awkward as that is to say, I mean it. And likewise, I was a customer of theirs. Matter of fact, that's how I sealed the deal on the sponsorship. I was like, look how many orders I've placed. And they're like, oh my gosh, you are a boy. I was like, I told you, I'm your man. So please go check out Cold Blooded Cafe. Use the promo code PROPER10. They're going to give you 10% off of your next order. It's a one-time redemption. But as far as I know, there's no limit on how much that can be. And we all know that feeders can get pricey real fast. So that could be a good chunk of change. Go check them out. Thanks very much. Last but very not least, the person I've been doing business with the longest in this industry is Chris Shelley at BNS Reptilia. He sells all kinds of different species of snakes, both pythons, colubrids. I'm not even educated enough to talk about everything he has. I know he has blood pythons. He has boas. Anyhow, go check out Chris. He's a great guy to do business with. And he's one of those guys that I've met in person. We've spent some time together. And he's just that genuine. And if he treats me that well, I know he treats his customers and his animals that well. So Chris at BNS Reptilia. All the links are down below. Thank you, sponsors. Thank you so much. Summer, how does one go from a 3D printer in their workshop area
Mm-hmm.
and maybe you don't know the answer, but I don't know the answer, and I'm curious to what I would consider a mass production. But what would that mass production number be? What would you? Is this something you go to China for? Is this something you know a local foundry that can make these? How does this work? How do you get that product from your 3D printer to the grand marketplace, so to speak?
Yeah. So, like, honestly, and this may sound like crazy, but Alibaba.
Yeah, it doesn't sound. Hang on. What? I'm sorry. Oh yeah, Redline shipping pushing for #1 in 2023. Absolutely. I'm sorry. I thought that said something else. Okay, sorry. So how do you? Okay, so Alibaba, is that now? I always thought that was sort of the Amazon of China. Is that correct, or is that a mischaracterization?
I mean, I think it depends, right?
Yeah.
It depends on what you're ordering. And so like I went into ordering things through Alibaba, like really kind of skeptical, because like folks say like, oh, you're going to get ripped off. There's a lot of scammers, and there are scammers there. You have to be so careful when you're picking. But I've had nothing but awesome experiences with like working with manufacturers through Alibaba. And so like I have a few folks that I've been in communication with about injection molding.
Yeah.
And like I'm doing like a small run of some like silicone bowls to see, just so like I haven't worked with these folks before. Like I want to see how they do. So I'm doing like a run of some, like just something that's kind of not hard to get right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just to see how it goes. But yeah, like I've had a lot of luck with them. But I've also spent like literal hours and hours like looking through vendors and like reading their reviews and like trying to find the right ones, you know? So in some ways it's like, there's some products that like we give away stickers to all the kids at the show, because it's a great way to like get their parents' attention, you know? It's like a sticker and the kid comes over happy, and then the parents are like, oh, what are you doing? And then the next thing I know, they bought like 3 bowls, like 3 of our Primo feeders. And so so I like stuff like that. Like I order stickers from them.
Really? Okay.
And I'll order like I don't know, like a few thousand stickers, like just Reptile stickers. And then we give those away to the kids for free at the shows.
Yeah.
And then we're looking at ordering these little Reptile toys for the kids as well. So like little stuff like that, like, yeah, it could be very much like Amazon. But the other side of that is that like, depending on what you order, it's going to take like a month of being shipped to you by boat and like all these other things.
Well, I mean, a month's not that. I mean,
it's horrible.
In this day and age of Prime, we're so used to it. But yeah, I get you on that. Yeah. What say these silicone bowls?
Yeah.
What kind of minimum? Like I always think about what's the barrier to entry. Like, and I'll admit it, I am cheap. Like, what do I have to shell out to get in the game?
You got to spend money to make it, though, man. That's a real thing. It really is. Yeah,
I understand that, but are we talking $1,000? We're talking $10,000? Where are you going to be on these bowls?
So it depends, right?
Yeah.
So like it depends on the size of the thing that you're getting made. So like these little things that I'm getting made they're going to be inserts for our crested gecko feeder that we already produce. So after Pomona, I had a conversation with Frank with Geeky Gecko Creations.
Okay.
And he's like a good dude, badass gecko breeder. And he gave me advice on how I could make a good gecko feeder. And so I'm like, these little silicone things that I'm getting made are meant to be inserts for the gecko feeder. And they're small. So in order for them to get produced, they have to make what's called a tool. It's like a mold, basically, so that they can inject the plastic into or whatever the substance. And the price of the tool depends on the size of your thing that you're right. So it could be, if you're getting it manufactured in the US, it could be anywhere between $6,000 to like $20,000, just for the thing so that they can make the thing. That doesn't even get you any parts.
No, that's and that I shouldn't have phrased it as cheap. It's then I go ask myself, okay, how many of this widget do I have to sell at what price to make it? Exactly. And then will the wheel go? So then how much faith do I have in this product?
Exactly. Well, that's why, and that's how I made my way to Alibaba, because I order my my egg incubating boxes from a company there. And at one show, a guy came up to me and was talking. He's a snake breeder, and he was like, we're talking about like what kind of boxes would be like work well for snake eggs. And he was like, oh, like this is what I would want to see. And I'm like, okay, awesome. So I took those notes and I went back to the company that I get my egg boxes from. And I'm like, hey, like what would it look like to produce this, like produce something like this custom? And she was like, oh, well, she's like, it would be at minimum like 2,000 for the tool. And my mind was blown, because I'm like, only 2,000?
I could do that. Yeah.
For the tool, I can do 2,000 for the tool. And then every part after that, it's like pennies on the dollar. It's like, it's super cheap, like after that point. So like that's the trade-off. Like you get the tool made, and the tool is the expensive part. And then each individual like object you get made is so much cheaper than it would have been otherwise. And so it's an interesting process. It's like, I mean, I've spent quite a bit of money with with the companies that I've worked with Alibaba. Like I found 2 companies that I work with for my light fixtures, and they're really awesome. Like I'll order something, I'll get it in, and I'm like, can we tweak this? Can we make this change? And they're like, yeah, we can do that. And so we'll tweak it, we'll make the changes, and like, so it can get to like what I want it to be. And so, I don't know. It's been a good experience so far, for sure. So
that is cool. You've opened a can of worms. You're going to get random Instagram. I mean, like, Summer, I got to figure this out. Here's my piece of cardboard with the scribble on it. I need this. How do we do this? Killer.
And I mean, I'm not an expert. Like, I'm still learning for sure. Like Robin and I were texting about because I get really excited about the idea of something. So like today I texted Robin, was like, I'm going to get a CNC machine. He's like, maybe you should wait.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would.
Oh, that's good input, you know? And so and he's like, oh, like you can learn a lot from this person or learn a lot from that person. And I'm like, yeah, so I have so much to learn in this space, but I have every intention on putting in the work and like benefiting off of what I've learned so far. And my ADHD is a gift and a curse, right? Like the only reason why I'm 3D printing, I made my way to 3D printing, is because of my ADHD. It's like 100% why I made my way here. So
there's like a, people call me there's a British expression and it escapes me right now, but anyhow, it means tinkerer. Like I had this buddy, he's a British musician and he's incredibly good, like world-class musician. And he's like, Adam, I want you to build this guitar this way for me. And I'm like, Trevor, I kind of mess around with guitars. He's like, no. You're crazy enough. It's not going to be, when you're done with it, when you're finally happy with it, I'll be more than happy with it. And seriously, I built some 3 guitars that he does today. But I see business the same way. I want to tinker with things so like I'll go back to these camera things. I was like, all right, the cameras are going to cost me X. I think I can monetize it this way. And even if I can't monetize it dollar for penny, this dollar in and this dollar out, I can attract people to the brand and maybe they'll buy a snake later or they'll support me in another way or I'm just engaging them and there's value in that. I love that stuff. So you watch, I do anyway, watch Shark Tank or something and you hear these people are like, well, we checked with a manufacturer in China and like, to me, that sounds like, I don't know, I got to buy a shipping container or something. And that can't be cheap.
It sounds like it's not accessible. Like it 100% does. Yeah. But sometimes it isn't, right? Like I've been trying to find a supplier for for like Java wood and other types of really cool botanicals. And like I found a guy like, so he seems to be like maybe the biggest guy on Alibaba who does it, who has these supplies. But it's like I gotta buy a whole shipping container full.
Right.
I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna buy like $15,000 worth of Java wood. Like I'm not,
Right.
you know. So sometimes it isn't accessible. You know, you have
Right.
to, you got to pick and choose. You know,
but that also comes down to knowing, like, making those relationships and figuring it out. And I figured out the world of wine. I figured out the world of food. Like I'm working on this world of reptiles and ball pythons, and relationships are so important. So I love it. I love this. I know people roll their eyes at the word journey, but it's a real journey for me because it's just a breath of fresh air.
Why would you roll your eyes at journey? It's a good word. It's a corny word, but it's a good.
But it's legit though. I get caught up in the. I try not to get caught up, and I just hear there's just apparently that's the hot thing on podcasts. Don't say journey anymore. I got fingers for that.
That's funny. Yeah, the thing about reptiles that works really well for me and teaching as well is like, because of my brain, because of my neurodivergent brain, I need there to be a novel aspect to it. Like I need to have that, you know, in order for me to stay interested long term. So teaching is the only career path that I like, besides design. Teaching and design are the only career paths that have ever worked for me, because like every client is brand new and it's new. And every semester I get a room full of brand new students, you know? So it keeps me interested. And with the reptiles, it's like, I don't know what these guys are going to do. Like every day, it's like for the good and the bad, there's something's going to happen that's going to stress me out. Something's going to happen. There's going to be like a failure in my system at some point this week, and that's going to stress me out, but like in a good way. And like I'm always finding myself like with changes in the climate, like the seasonal changes, like I'm having to tweak and move, and keeping outdoors is like such a great challenge for me, because it's so hard. Like it can be easier, but it's so hard because there's so many factors you have to take into consideration, from like nights that get too cold to predators to all of these different things, you know? So it's reptiles work. It works for my brain because it's always evolving, at least for me, you know?
I empathize with that, because I always said that about restaurants. So I got a history degree and secondary education minor. So my goal was to go be a teacher, and I never left the restaurants because, well, first I love it, but secondly, like I was developing and growing people in my own way in the restaurants, because let's face it, restaurants attract all kinds of people, but I also find kitchens in particular to be one of the it's a great meritocracy though. If you show up and you produce and you work, it doesn't matter. You talk about a cultural mismatch. I mean, I remember I was working in just north of Montgomery, Alabama, Wetumpka, Alabama, and I had a lot of kitchen crew guys that were there because they had to be there. That was part of their parole or work release or whatever. And they were gang members, and they were different gangs. And I had to tell them, guys, look, you figure it out. You figure out how to put your colors away, and you figure out how to deal with this young white dude here, and we're all going to make this work, or else my restaurant's going to close, and you guys are going to go back to jail. So how about for 8 hours, let's flip some burgers, have fun, put on the radio, and forget about the rest of that life for a minute. And like I was terrified. I was 25 at that time. It was unbelievably terrifying, and it worked. And well, it worked for a year, and then I said, this is not my home. This is not where I'm going to be any longer.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I can't remember what got. Oh yeah, the variety every day. It's not the repetitive. You always have there's a new person, there's a new personality, not to mention the customers. I mean, that's a whole different ball game of customers and personalities. So
Hey, we got a special guest, and I told Summer about it earlier, but I haven't told anybody in the audience. Real quick, Summer, before we lose the focus here, Keith at Creative Genetics asked, "How do we contact Summer? How do people get a hold of you the best way?"
Yeah, my socials are a good route to take. They're all the same: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. It's all the shop. TikTok has a underscore between the and shop. Somebody else had that already for some reason. I don't know why, and they never post anything. It makes me mad.
Yeah, they take it and they don't even use it.
They already had like without the underscore, they would be using it. It makes me bad, but yeah. And then on all of my socials, on my TikTok and my Instagram, my LinkTree has my website. It has all of that contact information there. So yeah.
And Keith, that LinkTree is down in the description as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, third shift at an IHOP in a college town. Oh, they should make a television series. It's phenomenal. Let's welcome. We got another guest. This is actually Robin from Robin Markman from REDLINE Shipping. Robin, what is up? You're on live, man.
Look
What's up, y'all?
you. What's up,
Hey,
bud?
how you doing, Summer?
What's up? I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm great. I have somebody else here as well.
Wow.
Special guest, my wife, Nikki.
Yay.
Hey.
Hey, Nikki.
Hi, everybody.
It's nice to see you in like real life as opposed to just like a still photo. Hello.
Hi.
There we are. Power duo.
Yeah, Robin, thank you for coming on, man. I know that live settings are not your favorite thing, so I take it really as a huge compliment that you're here. Thank you very much, man. Thanks for all the support you've given to me too along the way.
Of course, absolutely. I was excited you were going to have Summer on. I think she's fantastic, very exciting,
Shucks.
big brain, and as you guys have discussed, she's super duper ambitious. So
yeah, This is why I do this show, because I will learn from almost anybody, but sometimes you just strike like gold where you're like, wait a minute, because I'm going to think about this for a long, like there'll be things that pop in my mind. And Summer, do you ever make it to the East Coast, Summer, on any, I know you go to a whole lot of shows. You're going to do Daytona or anything this neck of the woods?
I'm not sure. I've rarely been to the East Coast, like here in I've never even been to New York.
Okay.
It's on my list of places to go. And I'm venturing out and doing shows that are a bit further away from home and trying to figure out how to make it make sense, money-wise, to get how do I ship Robin shipping boxes and boxes of dry goods.
We know a guy.
I might know a fella who could help.
If you use the promo code proper5, he's going to give you $5 extra off. All right.
Yeah, that works out perfectly aligns. Yeah. So that the logistics of doing something further than say Arizona or something further than a quick drive over is. But I want to do shows all over the place because it's just a part of so branding is my subspecialty within graphic design. And so it's just, with us being this being our first year of official launch as a business, we need to have feet on the soil and as many places as we can,
So did you vend at Tinley or were you
No,
attending?
I was just hanging out.
I put her to work, Adam.
Yeah, helping. Yeah, I got to walk around plenty. I wasn't an official employed helper, but it was really fun being behind the REDLINE booth, and it was my first Tinley. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll go. And Robin's like, you should go. And I was like, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do it. And so.
For people, for people coming up in the industry, I try and explain how important a show like Tinley is.
Yeah.
Right.
And, again, Summer has big ambitions and big plans. And so I was like, this is the show you need to be at. And it just happens to be in a handful of weeks. So if it's possible, come to the show and get a vibe for it and see what the energy is, see what the rhythm is, see how many vendors there are, see how they execute. And I think it's always important for people that want to get to do shows like Tinley, like see what your peers are doing.
Yeah.
You know, see who your competition is going to be. See how well they do their booth, so that you don't show up with, you know, some janky setup that looks ridiculous. But you can present yourself professionally, you know, and make a good first impression. And at the same time, come help me run my tables. Pass out shirts and wear a REDLINE jersey.
You just have like a Step and Pete background, just chilling, just ready to go at your house whenever.
Yeah, we happen. Yeah, that's actually I was lazy to take it down from last time.
It's actually a shower curtain. He just looks at it when he's like, this is how I start my morning right here.
Well, a lot of people say the best ideas happen in the bathroom. So.
You know, there's some truth to that too.
Yeah, so we had a really great time at Tinley, and I think Summer was blown away by just the sheer volume and size of it.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And all the great things to see. I mean, I was trying to drag her out of the auction so we could go to dinner. And it took like 15 minutes because she was trying to say goodbye to all her new friends.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You were waiting at the door. Like, where did you go? It's that. Yeah, that's true.
It was a great weekend.
Are you going to do, Robin? You'll be down at Daytona, surely, right?
Definitely not.
No, really.
I haven't done Daytona in years. No.
Really? Okay. Maybe we can't talk. Maybe we'll have to check. I'll have to learn about that later. Okay.
Just talk me into it. Yeah, I used to be a Daytona stalwart. I mean, we did Orlando before it was Daytona. 100 years ago, like last century. And no, I stopped doing Daytona. I'm not a fan of some of the Daytona aspects.
I got you.
There'll probably be a REDLINE staffer there. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll be at Daytona if anybody wants to hang out. I've got to book my room before long. I don't think I'll be vending, but my calendar's over here. I'm like, how long do I have? I've got to book my room and stuff there. But
you need to bring your ass to Tinley is where you got to come.
You know what? I might go. I always say I might, but I might go in October. And it's a funny story. I think we all have significant others. So my wife and I have a family trip planned this summer, and then we get back and she's like, yeah, I'm going to take a trip up to Minnesota real quick. And I'm like, yeah, what about me? She's like, well, you know, you're going to have the snakes and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I might have a Tinley trip in October then. We'll just have to see. Cause you know,
well, come out to Tinley October. Rumor has it that Summer will have a table next to REDLINE. So she might have jumped the waiting list by 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Be vending at Tinley Park for a fall. That would be super excited if we make that happen.
I started to say something earlier. I was like, I don't know if I should save. So I'm happy you said it. I'm very stoked about this.
That's incredible. It is it's even longer for ball python breeders, but yeah, that is a very, very long line.
Adam, I can get you a table. I can get you a table at Tinley for ball pythons.
Really?
Yeah, wow. I think 2065.
But yeah, exactly. I'll be 92, and my.
But you got to prepay now.
So many ball pythons at Tinley. It was.
I'll have quad visuals available 2062 in Chicago Tinley.
Yeah.
All right, this is a ball python show. Now we're gonna. Hey, Robin, will you tell us about the Purple Brian's Army sweatshirt initiative, if you wouldn't mind? Yeah, please do.
Yeah, so we started doing a REDLINE hoodie that I came up with and launched that. It was actually launched at Tinley just a couple of weeks ago, and that was super well received. And at the same time, you know, I'm dear friends with Brian and Lori Barczyk, and so that news had just started breaking. Obviously, that Brian Barczyk has pancreatic cancer, inoperable terminal pancreatic cancer. So, you know, as an industry and as a family, we're all starting to grapple with this idea that we're going to lose our friend at some point.
Right.
You know, and he's still getting his diagnosis and his prognosis about how long he can be around. And he's got plans and ambitions he wants to do. And the community's really come together, families come together to show support for Brian through various fundraisers. We did a big fundraiser at Tinley Park. If I talk too much about this, my wife's going to start crying.
I might too. Yeah.
Sorry to put you on blast, Marlon. But what we did was, because the hoodies were so popular, I reached out to my hoodie manufacturer and I said, is it possible we can do a purple hoodie and do a Brian's Army theme for it, because that's kind of what people have started doing with different bracelets, some other different shirts and sweatshirts. And I thought we could execute this really fast, and put it out there and let people purchase it. And then the proceeds from the hoodie sales will go to Brian and his family. So yeah, we launched that. I think the link went live Monday. So yesterday. Yeah, and I've got word that the sales are already going through. There's a ton of people that have ordered. I'm very excited about it, and whatever we can do to show support for Brian, I think is a positive thing. I text with him reasonably often, every day, every couple of days. He's got a big battle ahead, and so I think the support and the love that we can show him, again, as a family, and what we share in the reptile world, I think helps and it supports him. So it's something very small that we can do. Like I said, we had a really great experience at the auction in Tinley. Brian Potter cried like a 4-year-old boy when he was talking to Barczyk.
Yeah.
Brian Potter did. But he put him on video with the rest of the crowd, and we were able to, show him a lot of good support. And we raised a ton of money for him right there at the show, which was great. So doing the REDLINE hoodie with Brian's Army as the theme in that purple color that's been adopted by him as for his push. It's just something small we can do, and I'm really excited about it. And like I said, people are ordering them already, and probably should start arriving in a couple of weeks. So yeah, everybody wants to show support for Brian. He's given a lot to the industry in the last 30 plus years. So.
And redlineshipping.com, they can find it there, or where do they find that?
There's actually a link, redlineshipping.com. There's a link in the banner at the top of the site. And then in our blog on the site, there's also a link there. We don't actually sell it on the site. It's like a print on demand type of setup situation that they do for my hoodies. But they got a quick turnaround. Like I said, usually you get it in hand within 2 weeks.
Cool. Yeah, I ordered mine last night. I'll be
nice.
I'll be anxiously awaiting it, and I'm looking forward to having that. So thank you for spearheading that. I think it's a noble cause, and I don't know Brian personally whatsoever. Of course, he's a big part of the industry, but I lost my mother to ovarian cancer way too early in her life, so it's been really hard for me to address. And I said, you know what, this will be a good way that I can both help, participate, contribute, and show a little support too. So
I think that emotional support and love is important for sure.
Let's switch gears for a minute. Robin, how's your I think business is going great. You said you were going to be pushing for #1, so congratulations on that, and thanks for dragging me along on some of that as well. What can you tell us sort of by proxy? What are you seeing in the reptile industry from the shipping activity? What does it tell us about the state of the industry as a whole? Do you have any insight along those lines?
Things look really, really good for this year.
Good.
I mean, fantastic. Our business, is growing. I mean, explosively, really. We're picking up accounts constantly, and every week is bigger than the last. So shipping volume and the animals being exchanged out there is definitely high. What I also can tell you is from the Tinley show, sales reports from there. Before the show, I got a lot of feedback. People were predicting that there's going to be a huge crowd, but sales were going to be soft because people are worried about a softening in the market and a slowdown. On the merchandise side, I can tell you that folks like Reptile Basics, Pangea, Triple L, BioDude, they all had like best ever shows at Tinley.
Okay.
They sold more product and sales than they've ever sold at any Tinley show ever. Josh Frogs, I think he said he had his second best show ever. And then we have other ball python breeders. I talked to ball python breeders that did over $50,000 in sales at Tinley.
Wow.
Bob's wild. Balls had a fantastic Tinley show.
Yeah.
I'm really, really big on the invert guys right now. The spider folks, tarantula folks, isopod folks. That segment of our industry is absolutely bonkers. And every one of those said this was our best show ever, like off the charts.
That's cool.
What I'm seeing is that the market is really, really strong still. And I think 23 is going to be a very, very strong year. I know that, again, some people were cynical about it going into the year, but boy, that's not what we're seeing on my side and from my perspective. And that's not what I see when I talk to the vendors at the shows. It's been off the charts.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. And I'm glad to hear, like, I feel like Tinley's got to be sort of the tip of the iceberg. So, I mean, in some ways, it's probably the most secure clientele. They're going to be like, those buyers are going to be there, hell or high water kind of thing. Whereas small local shows could be a different story. But on the other hand, as long as that core is there, then we exist, kind of deal.
I went to the Reptile Denver show this past weekend.
Yeah, how was that? Matter of fact,
it's small.
Yeah,
the 30-something vendors maybe.
Really, in Denver?
And I talked to ball python guys that did 7,000 plus.
Cool.
That tiny little show.
Yeah.
And then multiple ball python guys that did fantastic at that show. And again, I mean, somebody like Rubber Ducky Isopods, every show they go to, they do phenomenal numbers. That invert market, again, is just off the friggin' charts. But yeah, the sales reports, even at that small show, were very, very strong. The crowd looked good. There was a lot of really nice, solid vendors at that little, small Denver show. It comes through town a bunch of times during the year, but it was a very, very solid show, and I heard really, really good, solid sales numbers from it.
Yeah, we've been doing really good with our local shows here in California too. It's been, I've been surprised that because it's like our first year like doing shows, but we like at the end of every show we're sold out of like multiple things, which has been so exciting on multiple levels. But also just like folks are showing up. They ask me what they need. We have the conversation, and they're like, "All right, I'll take all of that." I'm like, "Awesome, cool. Guys. Yeah, that's awesome."
my overall sales are great. This will be my best year ever, and actually, this week is my best week ever by some long shot. But then again, there was like 3 weeks where I didn't sell anything. But I'm finding I have to get, which is good. This is a good thing, but like any business should go through it. I'm finding I have to get more and more creative. I have to be upping my output. I have to be finding ways to reach buyers. It's not a just sit back out there and put it out there and they will come kind of thing. Which, like I say, is any business that you can't expect to just kick back and have everybody march to you. So I can't.
Super competitive out there.
Yeah, it is. So I can't really complain. So we'll see what we get. Summer, you are the guest of honor tonight, though. What's the future for you? Where does the shop ever turn into your primary livelihood, or is it okay? So that's the hope, huh?
Yeah, that's the goal. So we've been looking at retail spaces, which is really exciting. I don't know. This is like, so it feels so silly to say, but since I was like, I don't know, 14, I've wanted a retail space. I don't know why. I'm like, I want a store. Like I want to walk into this space and I'm like, this is my store. Like, just really, I don't know why. It's like such a weird thing for like a 13, 14-year-old to be dreaming about, but it is like, yeah. So we looked at spaces. We had a space like that. We have a space that's like, all I have to do is sign the lease and it's done. But everyone in my life, including Robin, is like, I don't know, that sounds like a bunch of red flags to me. So it's been a really weird experience with this person. So my partner's an attorney, and so she went through the lease and she's like put together an email and sent to him and is like, hey, these are the changes we want to make to the lease. So it's like, if he agrees to those changes, then even if he is like a douchey sketch artist, like it'll be a safe situation.
You got the paperwork, right?
We have a safe contract, and I really like this space. Like it fits a lot of what I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. but if that one doesn't work out, there's like a couple of other spaces that I'm like, ooh, like I like these too. So
let me ask you this: why the aside from the 13-year-old girl's dream, why the brick and mortar front facing store versus this world of media that we can get brands and shipping out? I mean, we got a shipping guy kind of deal. So what's the differentiating factor there for you?
So that's a great question, right? Yeah. Because having a store space is bringing in unnecessary overhead that like I don't have to deal with right now, right? Like I go to a show, I sell a bunch of stuff, and I don't have to worry about that turning into rent and all of these other things. For me, the store space is, how do I say this diplomatic? Hey, crazy dog. 1 second.
Okay.
What Summer wants, Adam, is to torture herself.
All right. I'm here.
And be miserable in retail.
No, that's not. Yeah, well, I have heard.
I wasn't talking about you, Summer. That was me and Adam.
I've heard lots of stories about the misery that is retail, including from friends that are doing retail that like have their own spaces.
It's a hard pull. It is a hard pull for sure.
To say it in a diplomatic way, like I want the store to be less of a store, but more of a hub for community.
Okay.
So like the store will have our dry goods, we'll have animals, but we'll also have workshops and we'll have talks. I want the space to be somewhere where we can host like our local like herp groups and herp societies, like they can have their meetings there, right? I want it to be the type of space that like it's not like in and out, like you come in, you buy your animal and you're gone. Right.
Yeah.
I want it to be a type of space where someone comes in and they're like, oh, I want to learn how to build an enclosure. And then we build the enclosure. And then they come back and they're like, I want to learn how to care for this animal I want to get in this enclosure. And they do a workshop on that. And then they buy the animal from us. And then they come back months later and they're like, I want to learn how to do a bioactive setup, you know? So we're creating like a relationship with our customers that's long-term as opposed to like a transactional situation. Sure. And like one of the things that I see, like not speaking critically of our community, but one of the things I see that could be improved, like we are working with living sentient animals, right? No matter, and they have brain capacity. Some of these reptiles that we work with are incredibly smart. Like the jewel lacertids are incredibly smart. People say bearded dragons are dumb. I think they're smarter than we think they are. Like one of my bearded dragons is trained to the fact that that the blue gloves I wear when I'm feeding him, that means food. So now when I stick my hand in, if I have on the blue glove, he tries to eat my hand. But if I stick my hand in without the blue glove, he's super chill, doesn't try to eat my hand, right? Yeah. So they're smart. They can be trained, you know? And so a part of what I want our space to like bring to our community is less of the like transactional mindset that goes on with these animals and more awareness and thought process around like, oh, actually, I'm bringing home this animal that can live for like 60 years, 20 to 30 years, 5 years. Like how, like, am I ready for that type of relationship? Our store is going to be more focused on like the classes and the dry goods and the animals, because we want to reserve the right to always be able to say no to a customer and I was explaining this to Robin, but we want to always be able to say, no, you're not quite ready yet. But we can help you get ready. And like, I have this conversation with my partner and with like other like reptile badasses in this community, like Roy, Arthur Blodgett. I love his whole name. It's such a good name. Who does the like Project Herpetoculture podcast. And he's just amazing. Like Roy is just to like sing his praises off subject for a moment. He is such a badass. Like he is working with species of lizards that no one has been able to have breeding success with, and he is having breeding success. Like he is like the biggest and oldest what is it called, puffing snake in the country is his, and he hatched it when he was 15 years old.
Oh, wow.
Like, this guy's he's a badass, you know. But one of the things that I talk about with him and other folks is like my conscience in relation to this industry, you know. And like, no one walks up to a table at a show, or walks into, I don't know, a Petco or something, or even walks into like East Bay Vivarium, the only like viable option of a reptile store that's in the Bay Area. Like, no one walks into those spaces and says, I want to buy this lizard and bring it home and kill it. I mean, maybe someone does, but
Yeah.
I don't think
No, nobody does. Yeah.
Yeah, no one is saying that, you know. So like, I know it's going to be a challenge to be like, hey, if you want to like have the best possible chances for success, like, maybe you don't get the reptile today. Maybe you get the enclosure, you get the lighting, you get these things that you need, and you set the space up first. And then you come back in like a week or two and we set you up with the reptile, right? And like, we give you some resources to look into and read, and like, come in as often as you need, ask the questions you need, email us, ask questions, and then come in and get the reptile, you know. So like, that's the goal for this space. So it's we could do that type of education online. We do a lot of that online. We
Right.
do a lot of that at the shows. But investing in a brick and mortar space is more about having a hub for that type of community activity, you know? So,
well, I'm not here to tell you can or can't do anything. I know, here's what I do know. The best ideas are different from what's already out there, and it takes the right person to bring those to life. And if anybody can do it, I'm convinced that you can. But it also takes the drive and the passion, and sometimes you figure those things out along the way. And I wish you well. I hope that you do. So we've run into a wonderful problem, which is that I have a pretty strict rule that when I started my podcast, I said I will never be the guy that rambles on for hours into the night. I would rather have another episode and have you back in the future.
There she goes.
And she's like, all right, I'm out of here. That's it. I've had enough.
like, I'm done. This is over. No.
That's it. Fine, Adam, I'm gone.
My partner Steph came to get the barking dog.
Oh, that's totally cool. That is what I had assumed.
I am so sorry about the animal disturbances. Our house is truly a wild menagerie, so it's just
you know what this channel is. It's about animals. That's fine.
Yes,
Cool.
it is madness over here.
So let's see. Let me wrap this up. So Robin, first and foremost, Robin and Nikki, thank you all for coming on. Like I say, I know that being on lives is not your favorite atmosphere to be in. Thank you for the trust. Thanks for the support. Everybody, please, if you're not using REDLINE shipping, just go give them a chance. Like, just check them out. Like I say, there's the promo code there, proper5. Yeah. And I think that you'll enjoy it. Summer, we gotta keep in touch. I want to know where your journey goes. Oh, Robin, funny story. My one line in my DJ contract for my wedding was that they were not allowed to play Journey. I hate that band. I cannot stand that band. So they weren't allowed to play Journey at my wedding. But otherwise,
don't stop believing, Adam.
Oh, I stopped a long time ago, brother.
I've got you faithfully.
I know them all, and I don't care about your point. What would be a good one about I don't care? The wheel in the sky. That's a dumb song.
We're going to go our separate ways.
Yes, that's right. We are going to go our separate ways.
I have a feeling this guy could keep going with those. Just, yeah. I also like to say, I want to like cockily. Sure, we're gonna go with cockily. Take credit for bringing Robin out of his, bringing him into this live.
I agree. Yes, I would say that. And the only disappointment is that we now know that Robin walks around with the Journey Greatest Hits cassette in his pocket, and he's like, "Ooh, there's one I can throw in. Let me just spout that out." That's why you need the hoodie. You need all the pockets for your Journey tapes to look at the.
Hey, I have genuinely spent 3 hours at a time watching reaction videos on YouTube to Journey songs.
Oh no!
So,
I
mean, there's no Van Halen, but Journey still arrived.
I'm I'm not going to knock anything that Robin's like. I really like this thing because he was like talking about reality TV. And I was like, I don't watch reality TV. And then last week I'm texting him about like 1,000-Pound Sisters because my like sister has me watching this show. We watched the whole 4th season in like 3 or 4 days or something. And they're like hour-long episodes. And then I found out about some other show called Brother Husbands. It's like sister wives, but the opposite. And I'm like, I cannot wait to watch Brother Husbands. And like
Corrupted.
a week ago at Tinley, I was like, no, I don't do reality TV.
Yeah, that's where I am tonight. We'll check in next week. Maybe it will change, but that's where I am.
So maybe you'll love Journey come next week. Who knows?
That won't happen. All right. Hey, next week I got Epic Style. That's Chris, Epic Style LLC.
Hey, nice.
On the show. Yeah, Chris will be on. So same time, same place. Summer, come back again. Let's do this in the fall or the winter. And I hope that you get your shop going. And everybody go check out Summer. Her links are down below. You guys have the links to Robin at Redline. Nikki, it's nice to meet you briefly. We'll catch up maybe in Chicago sometime, I hope. Or maybe in Colorado. Who knows? I've been out there more recently than Chicago. So thank you all very, very much. I will ramble if I don't just hit this show intro music. Thanks, everybody in the audience. See you guys.